not sure that as a community we've sat down and really had the conversation about what do we want in the future for the islands in terms of our economy and population and everything else, and then how does that relate to what we might do with using our marine environment but also safeguarding it.
I could say for a fact that if there was no seabirds on Foul Craig next year, our tourism would drop like a stone, and that would be the end of my job. The hostel would obviously affect that then because there's less visitors, so that would be 2 other jobs. The hostel basically keeps the shop going in the summer, so that's potentially 2 other jobs and we lose a shop. So the wildlife here is definitely a benefit to the economy.
And having those jobs can't be underestimated. You know, Orkney's islands suffered from depopulation for a very long time, especially the Outer Isles. So 6 jobs here, 7 jobs there actually makes a big difference at those community levels.
And, you know, decisions would need to be made in the future as to where do you put the cap on these things to ensure that we've still got, you know, a quality environment in the holistic sense.
There's different kind of pressures and how they're perceived, but ultimately, if it's generating income without damaging the resource, then we just need to, again, kind of walk that tightrope of literally sustainable development, but respecting the environment.
You need to be looking at the sort of future economy of Orkney, but making it a sustainable economy so that you're using resources wisely so they're still there for future generations. And I think very importantly you also need to be looking at societal and cultural aspirations. It's very easy to sort of perhaps go for growth, but then you actually lose something that defines what makes Orkney a special place to live.
Of course we want to develop the marine region around Orkney, but we want to do it in a way that's not going to impact the natural world and the wildlife that's already here. We need to take an ecosystem-based approach to make sure, nature is protected.
Yeah, a healthy, sustainable seas is obviously the way to go, and I think most folk would probably agree with that. For me, in terms of marine planning, it's ensuring that any human development is taking that into consideration. So it's scientific advocacy, it's making decisions based on data, and sometimes that data is formal, like official surveys that have been carried out, and sometimes that's again going back to folk that live in the community and talking to them. It could be someone, for example, who regularly dives off the barriers. It could be someone who's got krill pots and is out on the water umpteen days of the year. So listening to those people and building on that data to make sure that the right decisions are made for the wider marine environment, but especially those bigger species, because if we get it right for them, then it will be right for the other species that use those habitats as well.
I think priorities-wise, I mean, I think it would, if there was a kind of pyramid of importance, I guess, the environment would be the pinnacle. You know, that would be, I suppose if you looked at it the other way around, would be the base of the pyramid. It would be the foundation from which all the other things could happen. Because I think without that foundation, the rest of it is either effective negatively or can't happen at all.
The most important thing to me is having a process whereby we can judge what is reasonable and what is not reasonable on both environmental and social and economic grounds. Then we have the ability to make the right decisions about the balance that we draw.
I think when to think about Orkney's marine environment, maybe we can turn things on its head and think, well, what would Orkney be like if it didn't have a healthy, productive, clean, safe marine environment? What would that mean for the future of the community in Orkney? So I think we have to think about what we don't want to make sure that we make the right decisions about what we do want and how we want things to be for the future generations.
One of the first processes on any plan should be bringing people together to identify what they see as important. And I think you'll find it's a massively long list of going right down to particular things and particular places that are important to people to sort of the bigger picture of some of the issues that are important.
It's really great to see that Orkney Islands Council are coming out to talk to the Isles communities. What's really important is ensuring that they are talking to community groups, not just necessarily national bodies that they're legally obliged to consult with, but talking to those groups on the ground who are in the marine environment and know the detail of the marine environment locally.
People who have always lived on Orkney or have lived on Orkney for a long time have seen changes. You know, the fishermen that have been fishermen since they were 15 have seen changes, and those are really valid things that people need to consider.
Science can back up a lot of things, but you can't beat decades of experience with a hands-on job. I think that's an angle that's quite often missing from big decisions that are made.
If there's guaranteed to be one thing that upsets people here, is that when things are dropped in from the outside and nobody really has any say in it.
If they feel that they're not being listened to or taken seriously, then you have one of the most important sectors there hostile. And you don't want that. You want to bring everybody together and work together. You need to have a very broad consultation.
I think if you could get people who really know how to put the message over to the public and have exciting talks and things that open people's eyes a bit.
There is a forum for developing of Stromness in its future. There's a forum for that kind of development in Kirkwall, the planning and seeing the future of the town and so on. And there should be the same for the environment round about it and the seabed and the shores and so on, because that's as important as where you put shops and houses and things like that.